With the pandemic putting a stop to most fundraising opportunities, local nonprofits and organizations are forced to look elsewhere. In tonight's special report, KION Stephanie Aceves reports on what they're doing to survive.
When you lose that kind of community support, it's not just the dollars, but it's also the relationships.
The pandemic has paid a heavy toll on some high-profile events on the Central Coast. But what about the nonprofit organizations that rely on the success of those events?
The rodeo, the air show, the artichoke festival, those kind of events where we would go and volunteer, and that would bring funding into the program. So we were missing that, and that was kind of a chunk of our budget every year.
Organizations like Hope Horses and Kids say they're evolving as the pandemic continues to disrupt additional funding from these events and from events they hold on their own. One of those examples is Hope Horses and Ribs, one of the biggest fundraising events for the organization that had to be postponed.
Last year, we decided that for 2020 we were not going to do a Hope Horses and Ribs, and so in February, right before this whole pandemic hit, we were in the planning stages of developing a new, improved fundraising event, but then never got to follow through with it. So that usually generated between $25,000 and $30,000 a year. So, a big chunk of our budget.
Sun Street Centers would normally benefit from the success of the rodeo. It's an organization that provides education, prevention, treatment, and recovery from drug abuse. Sun Street Center CEO Anna Foglia says they've seen an increase in binge drinking and mental health issues during the pandemic. Sun Street Centers has also felt the loss of being unable to participate in fundraising events, but says the most important loss are the connections.
You get to know each other, and they may hire some of our volunteers that are in long-term recovery. So it's another way that we lose that connection when they're not having their events.
The Recovery Center says that 30% of their fundraising plans went to special events like the rodeo or their own fundraising attempts. This accounts for $300,000 of their budget they needed to find, but managed to find a way to make up the difference.
And so we've moved to grant writing in a big way. So whereas grant writing was about 50% of our fundraising plan, now it's like 80% of our fundraising plan. And thank God there's been some good state and federal grants that we've been able to fundraise for.
Despite the trickle-down effect of big event cancellations leading to decrease in funding for nonprofits, there's still hope as community members and private donors have also stepped in to help keep nonprofits alive. In Salinas, Stephanie Aceves, KION News Channel 546.